Before the first gods were named, there was intention. The Creator revealed space, but space alone could not endure. Expansion required restraint, movement required stillness, and so Frosta existed. The Creator and Frosta did not argue. They did not rule together, they functioned together. One allowed things to emerge, the other allowed them to remain. Where the Creator expanded, Frosta held where form appeared, cold preserved it, long enough for shape to endure. This was not command, it was condition. Within this stillness, the first beings emerged. Not gods, not rulers, ancient forms vast and unrefined. Later ages would call them giants. Others would call them trolls. Among them was Ymir. He did not arrive by will. He remained because cold allowed him to. When later gods acted, when Odin and his brothers shaped the world from Hymir's body, they did not defy Frosta, they acted within what had already been made possible. The freezing of trolls was not punishment. It was preservation. Some remained whole. Others were broken apart to become land, sea, and sky. Thus Frosta did not create the gods. He made creation possible. Not as a ruler, not as a king, but as the boundary within which all things could begin.
When the Creator left, nothing ended. There was the lie. The realms remained, but they drifted. Time moved without direction. Matter existed without purpose. Sound faded where no ear waited for it. And in that vast remainder, Frosta stood. He did not mourn. He did not rage. He remained. Cold was not born then. It was revealed. The absence of will took shape, and stillness gained weight where motion failed. Frost formed where warmth fled. Silence hardened. Frosta watched the world slow. Creation had been abandoned unfinished. Life multiplied without meaning. Beings rose and fell without memory. There was no ending. And so nothing truly began. Frosta understood what the Creator had not returned to finish. Endings were missing, so he carved them. From void and cold he shaped boundaries. From stillness he shaped law. Where chaos stretched endlessly, he placed limits. Where existence refused to stop, he taught it how. The first realm he formed was not a kingdom. It was a function. A place where things went when they were done. Later, gods would name it hell. But before gods, before names, it was only frost and mist shaped with intention. Frosta did not create life. He prepared it to end. And in doing so, he made the world possible again. Far away, in realms not yet aware of him, something stirred. Not fear, not reverence, resistance. And Frosta knew then what must come next. If endings were to be enforced, they would need hands. If hands were to act, they would need belief. And so the age of gods approached. Not as rulers, but as instruments.
When the gods were made, it was not an act of worship. It was an act of necessity. Frosta did not shape them from love, nor from hope. He shaped them because the world resisted him. Endings alone were not enough. They required force, they required belief, they required figures that could move among realms and be obeyed. The gods were not born equal. Each was formed with a flaw, placed there deliberately, wisdom without certainty, strength without restraint, deceit without direction, love without permanence. Odin was given sight beyond time, but denied peace within it. He would see what must come, yet always believe he could alter it. Thor was given power unmatched, but chained to anger he would defend order, yet shatter it whenever his will was crossed. Loki was given freedom of form and thought, but no place to belong. He would question every rule, even those that kept the world intact. They believed themselves free. That belief was required. If the gods had known their purpose, they would have refused it. No being willingly serves an ending. So Frosta withdrew. He let them rule, let them war, let them name themselves creators. He allowed myths to grow around their deeds, allowed prayers to rise in their honor. All of it was permitted. Because every conflict sharpened them. Every victory taught them loss. Every death brought the world closer to balance, yet something remained unresolved. The gods could kill, but they could not conclude. Souls lingered, memory persisted, existence refused to release its grip. So Frosta watched the gods fail where it mattered most, and in that failure, he found the final necessity. Death would need a will, not a weapon. Not a storm, but a presence that could not be denied. That presence would need to stand apart from the gods, yet be born of them, feared, yet obeyed, bound to order, not emotion. That was when Frosta turned his gaze toward Loki, and toward the child, who had not yet been taken.
did not begin in peace. It began with a body. Among the first beings was Ymir. Vast, unrefined, ancient. He remained because the world was cold enough to hold him. When Odin and his brothers acted, they did not create from nothing. They transformed. From Ymir's flesh came the land, from his blood came the seas, from his bones came the mountains, from his skull came the sky. This was not mercy. It was necessity. Creation was not gentle. It was final. The gods shaped the world from what already existed, and what existed had been preserved long enough to be shaped. Thus the world was formed, not by command, but by consequence. Ragnarok was never a prophecy. It was a story. The gods believed it was a vision of the future whispered through time, carved into fate itself. They spoke of it as an ending they could neither escape nor prevent. That belief served its purpose. Frosta allowed the tale to take shape because the gods required fear without it. They would grow careless without it. They would forget restraint. So Ragnarok was seeded into their myths, not as truth but as pressure. Each god heard it differently. Odin heard inevitability and sought knowledge to outmaneuver it. Thor heard doom and prepared for battle. Loki heard a joke, cruel and unfinished, and waited for the moment to twist it. None of them asked who benefited. Was not meant to destroy the world. It was meant to drive the gods to their limits. Every vision of fire and collapse pushed them closer to the roles Frosta required them to play. Every fear of annihilation ensured conflict would never cease. War forged meaning. Meaning fed belief. Belief sustained the gods. But belief alone could not complete the cycle. When Ragnarok finally comes, it will not be the end of everything. It will be the moment the gods are no longer needed. Their deaths are not punishments. They are closures. Thor's fall will still the endless storm. Odin's silence will end the lie of control. Loki's final act will collapse the last illusion of freedom. And the world will continue. That is what the gods could never accept. That their stories were not eternal, only necessary. And so Ragnarok remained a shadow in their minds, a fear they could not escape, driving them forward exactly as intended, beyond their sight. Frosta waited, not for destruction, but for release.
Hela was not chosen in anger. She was chosen in silence. Before Hel had a name, before her form was split between warmth and frost, she existed only as potential. A child of contradiction, born of Loki's unrest and Angerboda's ancient stillness. Frosta watched her long before the gods noticed. She moved between moments, she listened more than she spoke. Where others raged or schemed, she endured. That endurance was what marked her. When the time came, Frosta did not announce his intent. He did not ask permission. He waited until the world demanded an answer it could no longer avoid. Souls were gathering, wars ended. Yet echoes remained, the dead refused to fade. Even the gods began to feel the weight of what lingered. So Frosta acted. He froze the moment itself. Thor fell to his knee, bound not by force but by the sudden absence of motion. Odin stood beside him, aware and powerless. The realms held their breath. Hela did not resist. That was the final proof. Frosta spoke to her alone, his voice cutting through stillness. "You will not be loved," he said. "You will not be thanked. You will be necessary." Ice spread through her, not as punishment, but as form. One half of her was preserved as she had been. The other was remade to endure what no living thing could. When time was released, Hela was no longer a child. She was an ending. Frosta stepped away, and the realms moved again. Thor's breath returned in rage, Odin's thoughts returned in fear. Hela was taken to the realm prepared for her long before her birth. A land of cold and mist, shaped not to torment, but to hold. Hell was not cruelty. Hell was order. And from that moment on, no soul would wander without destination. The world had gained its final boundary, and the gods began to understand what they had lost. I have watched what lingered longer than it should. Names still breathing after meaning. Let them go. The world grew heavy, not with grief but weight. What would not end did not remain, it's told. This is not mercy, this is not blame. This is the clearing after delay. Let it let it settle, last, not erased, not undone, only placed where it belongs. Some still stand where action lived and wait. Some still speak as if the world needs reply. But what comes next does not arrive with sound. It forms when resistance lets go. You call it loss because you feel. I call it order because it holds. Let it move, let it pass, let it settle at last. No reward, no release, only wait, finding peace. What follows this is not collapse. No fire, no wrath, it is space where choice returns. Let it move, let it pass, let it settle. At last the path is clear, the weight is known. The next step moves alone. I will remain where endings rest. What comes next will speak for itself.
Thor did not ask for permission. Odin warned him, not with threats, but with silence. Still, Thor went. The path downward did not resist him. No gates closed. No blades rose. It was open. Too open. The dead watched him pass, not in fear, not in reverence. They simply moved aside as if he already belonged there. There was no throne waiting, no challenge. Only warmth where none should be. Hela did not approach Thor like the others. She stood close enough for him to feel her warmth, close enough to confuse the air between them. She spoke slowly, her voice never quite explaining what her body already suggested.
She smiled when he looked away, and smiled wider when he looked back. Thor felt it then, not desire alone, but the loss of certainty. Later, when he reached for his hammer, it answered him. After a pause, and Thor, for the first time, wondered why.
I've killed things that begged louder than this, and stood in storms that tore mountains open. And still, this is heavier, not because it hurts, but because there's nothing to hit. I've killed things that begged louder than this. I stood in storms that tore mountains open. And still this is heavier, not because it hurts, but because there's nothing to hit. I've killed things that beg louder than this. I've stood in storms that tore mountains open. And still this is heavier, not because it hurts, but because there's nothing to hit. I've killed things that beg louder than this. I've killed things that beg louder. Killed things that beg louder than this. I've killed things that beg louder than this. I've killed things. I've killed things. I've killed things. I've killed. That beg louder than this. I've killed things. 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 I've killed things
Odin knew the moment Thor crossed into hell. Not through sight, not through sound, through absence. Something in the weave of things went quiet. A tension he had carried since the first war eased, and that frightened him more than any vision. He sat alone beneath the high vaults of Asgard, the ravens silent upon their perches. Even they would not meet his gaze. For all his knowledge, this was the truth Odin had avoided. Wisdom does not grant control. It only reveals the cost. He had seen this path long ago, not clearly, not fully, but enough to know where it ended. He had told himself that sacrifice was leadership, that loss was necessary, that gods must bear what mortals could not. But he had not believed the sacrifice would come for his own blood. Hela taken, Thor broken, Loki slipping beyond reach. Odin rose. He walked the old ways, the paths carved before Asgard crowned itself eternal. He spoke the names no god liked to remember. He gave up things he could never reclaim for knowledge. Again, the visions came, not of Ragnarok, not of fire, of frost. He saw Frosta standing at the end of all stories, untouched by time. He saw the gods falling not as heroes, but as tools laid down when their work was done. And he understood. Frosta had never opposed him. Frosta had outlasted him. When Odin returned to Asgard, his step was slower, his eye burned with understanding he could not share. He gathered the gods. We are not as we believe, he told them. We were shaped. Murmurs rose, denial followed. Only Odin knew it was already too late. Far below, in hell, Thor stood in silence before a throne that would not yield. And somewhere between all realms, Loki prepared to choose a side that did not yet exist.
He did not betray the gods in a single moment.
That was another lie they told themselves. Betrayal suggests loyalty first. Loki had never been given that. He walked alone through the spaces between realms where no oath held and no throne cast a shadow. He had seen hell, he had seen Thor fail, he had felt Odin's silence settle like rot in the roots of the world. The gods were breaking.
not from attack, but from purpose. Loki understood something the others did not. Frosta was not their enemy. He was their ending, and endings could not be fought, only redirected. So Loki began to move pieces that did not yet look like weapons. He whispered to giants who had grown tired of endless war. He loosened bindings the gods believed eternal. He planted doubts where certainty had calcified into pride. Not to destroy Asgard, to force it to choose. He returned once more to Hel. Hela did not bar his way. "You walk a narrow edge," she said. Loki smiled, thin and tired. "I always have." "You will unmake more than you intend," she warned. "I know," Loki replied. "That's why it might work." Hela watched him carefully. "You think this is defiance," she said. "It is alignment." Loki paused. "Then let it align badly," he answered. When he left Hel, something followed him. Not death, not fate, possibility. Above in Asgard, Odin felt the last illusions crumble. Thor raged against walls that would not answer him. The gods prepared for a war they still believed was coming. They did not yet see that it had already begun. Far beyond them all, Frosta watched Loki's path bend. Not away from the design, but through it. And for the first time since the Creator left, Frosta adjusted his stance. Not to stop what was coming, but to allow it.